Hi everyone, and thanks for checking out this video. This starts my horror movie franchise for the month of June. Um, and for the month of June, the franchise that I chose to review is the Child's Play franchise. So these are movies that I actually haven't seen all of before, and in some cases I haven't seen any of them. So it'll be an interesting series to go through, watch, and review. And then again, towards the end of the month, like the last 5 days or so, I'll have a ranking of all the movies in the franchise. There's 8 movies in this franchise. That includes the remake from 2019. Um, so yeah, I've seen some of them. I've seen parts from some of them. I'm not sure. I might not have seen any of them all the way through. So, a first time. So yeah, today we're going to go ahead and start with the first one. By the way, these reviews, the first half will be just kind of going through the premise and the what the story's about. And the second half will be my thoughts and review, which will include spoilers. And my other reviews that I've done in the past, I try to do it without spoilers, but I think it's just going to be easier to warn people ahead of time that these reviews will have spoilers. And some of these movies have been out for 30 or 40 years, so if you haven't seen them by now, I'm not sure why you'd be watching a video review on them, but yeah, I'll warn you before I go into the spoiler part on all of these reviews. So first up, of course, is going to be the original Child's Play from 1988, which you can see I have on Blu-ray here. It's a bunch of special features, which I have yet to watch. But so yeah, the original Child's Play from 1988. So it's a American horror film directed and co-written by Tom Holland, who of course directed Fright Night. Um, And the story's by Don Mancini, who I believe is involved in all of these movies, except for perhaps the remake. I don't know if he had any involvement there. Um, Obviously, it's the first installment of the series, and it stars Brad Dourif, Catherine Hicks, Chris Sarandon, Alex Vincent, and Dinah Manoff. Basically, Catherine Hicks's character plays a widowed mother who gives a doll to her son, played by Alex Vincent, unaware that the doll is possessed by the soul of a serial killer, played by Brad Dourif. The serial killer's name is Charles Lee Ray. So the movie starts out as a sort of a chase. In 1988, a homicide detective named Mike Norris, played by Chris Sarandon, who, of course, was also in Fright Night, had a great role in that movie. So we got some Fright Night carryover here. He's chasing a fugitive named Charles Lee Ray, the serial killer, through the streets of the south side of Chicago, reportedly shooting and hitting him. Um, He's got an accomplice, Eddie, who escapes alone in a getaway vehicle. Um, Charles Lee Ray breaks into a toy store, an abandoned toy store, I believe, or maybe it's not abandoned, where Mike fatally shoots him again. But before he dies, he performs a Haitian voodoo spell that he learned from like a voodoo teacher to transfer his soul into one of the good guy dolls, basically, and this causes the store to be struck by lightning and explode. Mike Norris survives the explosion and re-enters the store to find Charles Lee Ray's body and the doll laying next to each other. So then we cut to the next day. We have the widow Karen Barkley, played by Catherine Hicks. She unknowingly buys this doll, but now calls himself Chucky, from a homeless street vendor as a birthday present for her 6-year-old son Andy, played by Alex Vincent. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the setup and the premise of the movie. Um, it's a pretty good story, pretty good setup. I mean, some of it's a bit of a stretch with the voodoo stuff and the chant to transfer his body, but hey, it's a horror movie from the '80s. What do you expect? So as far as my thoughts and review on it, this is where the spoilers might start now. So I'll give you a few seconds to log off if you've not seen this movie before. Okay, so as far as the good things about this movie, and there's quite a few, um, it's got really good tension and suspense for any horror movie I've seen, actually. Especially the first half of the movie. You're not really sure when you're first introduced to this franchise if Chucky's the one that's doing the killing or if it's Andy. Of course, all the adults and everybody in the movie assumes it's Andy because, of course, realistically, dolls don't have minds of their own. So there's really good suspense in that regard, and you kind of feel bad for Andy actually, because because he's basically, he's got this killer doll after him, and nobody believes him for most of the movie. So yeah, the first half's a really good like mystery. You're trying to figure out who's doing what. The performances are really good by Catherine Hicks, Chris Sarandon, and Alex Vincent as a child actor. They're very believable, which is important for this kind of movie because on the surface, it's kind of a silly premise, of course. Having a doll that's a possessed doll, that's a killer doll, is just kind of, it's a little bit out there. But the performances by those three main characters really sell it. Alex Vincent is a child actor. A lot of times child actors don't work. He was helped both by a good performance by him as well as I'm sure the directing by Tom Holland definitely helped him out as well. I've always said that with kid actors, you can always tell if the directing is solid because their performances will come across better in my experience than when it's a lesser director or lesser directing performance. So yeah, he's really good, as are Catherine Hicks and Chris Sarandon. They really sell it. Brad Dourif, of course, his voice is Chucky, and Charles Lee Ray earlier in the movie. He's really good in this movie. He just took ownership of this character, Chucky, and he owns it. I mean, he's really really dark and creepy in this movie. I think he gets a little more humorous as the franchise goes on. He's got a couple of funny moments, but for the most part, he's darker here. Um, it's a really well directed movie, as you would expect by Tom Holland, of course, who did Fright Night. He's a really good director, especially during his time. I think the kills, there's not a lot of them, but they're pretty effective for what they are, with especially with minimal gore and blood. They work pretty well in this movie. Really good camera work and camera movement in this movie, especially before the Chucky reveal. And speaking of the Chucky reveal, my favorite scene of the movie, which I'm sure it's many people's, is when Catherine Hicks's character, Karen, after they keep Andy overnight at like a doctor's office or mental health clinic or something. She's there and trying to figure out what happened to him and stuff. And then she's looking at the doll, starting, well, maybe he's telling the truth. And she looks and there's no batteries in the back. So he's been operating without batteries. And then she tries to get him to talk. And that moment where he finally confronts her and reveals himself is just, it's definitely my favorite part of the movie, my favorite scene of the movie. It's really, really good and effective. Um, the relationship between Andy and Chucky's pretty good. The first half of the movie, when Andy's not really, he's kind of doing what Chucky tells him to do. It's almost as if, almost like he's possessed to a certain extent because he really wanted one of these good guy dolls at the beginning of the movie. So at first, I don't think he realizes how evil the doll is. I think the animatronic work with Chucky holds up pretty well when the doll's spinning his head and his arms and stuff. Yeah, overall, I just thought this was a really entertaining yet creepy movie all the way through. There's really no slow or boring moments where I was looking at my watch or anything. So that's on the pros part. On the cons part, some of the special effects don't hold up well. And the one that comes to mind mainly is there's times when Chucky's killing people. Like I think of the doctor towards the end of the movie when he puts like the electrodes, electric hat on his head and electrocutes him. You can totally tell it's a little kid that's dressed up in a Chucky outfit, and it's I'm sure it was the time that they couldn't actually have the doll do it realistically, but you tell it doesn't hold up very well. Um, to me, there's a few too many back from the dead moments by Chucky at the end of the movie, even though the third act is really good. It's just they shoot him, they blow him up, and he keeps coming back at least three, four, maybe even five times if I'm thinking about it. I think the first three times would have been plenty, but that's probably just a nitpick by me. The voodoo aspect of how Charles Lee Ray becomes Chucky, like I said, you really have to let your mind go and not think too deeply about it. It's a horror movie; it's fun. It doesn't always have to make total sense or be realistic. I don't. That is a stretch. Um, but yeah, that's really about all I have for nitpick negatives, and a lot of them are just nitpicks. But overall, this is a really solid film, very solid horror movie um, from 1988, Child's Play. I would give this, I'm going to rate this movie an 8.5 out of 10. 8.5 out of 10 on my scale. So yeah, definitely if you haven't seen it, which It's been 32 years, 33 years. Check it out. I'm glad it's part of my collection. I would buy it, especially on Blu-ray. It really sounds and looks good. So, yeah, thanks for watching my review on Child's Play, the original from 1988. Go ahead and comment down below your thoughts on the movie. Like this video if you enjoyed this review, and subscribe to this channel to see upcoming continuing reviews of the Child's Play franchise throughout this month, as well as other reviews throughout the month and the summer. So, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.